All right, hey guys, Mr. Kyle, Myers Mathematics, and let's just jump into it here. We're going to do 11 and 12 on this worksheet, start writing in scientific notation, Kuta software, infinite algebra 1. Okay, so when we're writing things in scientific notation, we have to make sure that the first number is a number between 1 and 10. It can include 1, but not include 10. It has to be like a single digit number. All right, and then we times that number by 10 to a power. So that is scientific notation. There's not really like a math reason for why that is what it is. That's just how somebody decided it should be. So that is what we're going to do. We're going to put it so that it's in that format. So currently, both 11 and 12 are not in scientific notation, even though they kind of look like it a little bit. And that's because for 11, 0.63 is less than 1. It has to be a number between 1 and 10. 0.63 is not a number between 1 and 10. So if I take 0.63 and I change that to a number between 1 and 10, I'd have to move the decimal place over. So if I move it over, let's say to right there, then it would be 6.3. Okay, so 6.3 is a number between 1 and 10, and it can be a decimal. A lot of times it is a decimal, most of the time, and this is no exception. So 6.3 is a number between 1 and 10, and so what do I have to do with that? Well, I have to times it by 10 to the power of however many places I moved it. And the thing is, if you have a small number, then you're going to need a negative power. And if you have a big number, you're going to need a positive power. We had a small number. 0.63 is smaller than 6.3. So we had a small number, we need a negative power. And just to be sure, 10 to the negative 1 is 0.1, or it means that we're moving the decimal place to the left by one space. So if you were to times 6.3 by 10 to the negative 1 power, it would make 0.63. Now, that wasn't the only thing, though, because it was 0.63 and it was already times by something. It was times by 10 to the first power. So I just dropped that down, and there we go. Okay, so it's still not technically in scientific notation yet, because there needs to be only one 10 that I'm timesing by. I have to have a number between 1 and 10, and I times it by 10 to the power of something. Well, if I combine these two things, 10 to the negative 1 power is like 1/10, and 10 to the first power is 10. 1/10 of 10 is 1. Or if you know about exponentials and combining numbers with powers that have the same base, when you times two numbers that have the same base but different powers, could even be the same power, you add the powers together. So it'd be adding -1 and 1, which would make 0. And then it would be 10 to the 0 power. Anything to the 0 power is 1. However, I want to leave it as 10 to the power of something. So if I combine these, it would make 1, which is 10 to the 0 power. And that one is pretty difficult because it's like, why do I need to do that? Well, it's just because that's the notation. We have to write it in the notation. Sometimes you might be able to get away with putting like 6.3 and then just like writing it like that. And some teachers might be okay with that. But typically, if you're going to write it in scientific notation, it has to be a number between 1 and 10 times by 10 to a power. So this would be the official answer to number 11. Okay, then we have number 12. And let's do it again. So we have that 33 number. All right. And this time, if you don't see the decimal place, remember it's to the right. It's immediately to the right of the rightmost digit. That's where the decimal place is if you don't see it. There's a lot of things in math that like are hidden, right? Like I can times any number by 1 and it stays the same. So there's like a hidden times by 1 everywhere. And I can add 0 to anything, and that doesn't change anything. So there's like a hidden 0 everywhere. And so there's all these hidden numbers and symbols and stuff in math, and we have to know, when to look for those and when to use those hidden symbols. Okay? So 33 is not a number between 1 and 10. It's more than 10. So this time we need to move the decimal place to the left. And that would make 3.3. So that would be a big number. 33 is a big number. It's bigger than 3 at least, or 3.3. So I would times it by 10 to the first power. And that's what I would do. Now remember, I was already timesing by 10 to the negative 3 power. Yep, you can just barely see that. There we go. So I drop that down, and I'm going to combine these. Now remember, when you do power times a power, you add the powers. That's one way to say it. Or you could say that when you're timesing numbers with the same base, you add their powers. So it'd be 1 plus negative 3, which is 1 minus 3, which is the opposite of 3 minus 1, which is the opposite of 2, which is negative 2. Okay, so I did that in like a million steps just so that you can see that's what I'm thinking when I'm doing 1 plus negative 3 in my head, is I'm saying, oh, 1 plus negative 3, so that's 1 minus 3. That's the opposite of 3 minus 1, so it's negative 2. So that's kind of like what I'm doing really, really quickly in my head, is kind of all those steps. But that is what you get when you add 1 and negative 3. So that would be 3.3 times 10 to the negative 2 power. And there we go. So that's about it for today. I'll probably go ahead and just post the rest of them over the next few days. 13 and 14, 15 and 16, 17, and so on and so on. I don't know how many there are. I forgot. There's like 6 more, give or take, I think, on this worksheet. And this will actually be the last worksheet and the last couple problems in the whole Algebra 1 Kuta software worksheet series. I took forever to do this series, but it's finally coming to a close. And I'm actually going to switch gears and start doing more Calc 2. So I'm going to try to do a little bit of every subject that I cover, which is between Algebra 1 and Calculus 3. But Calculus 2 tends to be a really popular subject. That and SAT Math Prep are probably some of the two that I tutor the most. So I'm probably going to start focusing on doing videos about those more often to help my current students. And so, yeah, but all of these worksheets, of course, are on YouTube. They're going to be there for, I don't know, forever until the earth decides to melt or something, I guess. So, yeah. So go check them out. The other videos, you can check out the free PDF guide I have on my website called The 5 Math Mistakes Everyone Makes and How to Avoid Them. That's on my website, Myers Mathematics, with the link down in the description below, as well as down in the description below an email, I believe. If it's not down there, let me know. And that's so that you can reach out to me if you have any questions, or if you want to inquire about tutoring. We can talk about that and talk about my rate and things like that. All of that stuff is also on my website, but yeah, you can actually like sign up for tutoring straight from the website. But usually people like to talk first about it, like parents. If you're a parent watching this, or if you're, a child watching this, then you would have your parent, reach out. Even in college, usually, I like to, like make sure like, oh, hey, okay, so this is what we're going to do, blah, 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 and all that kind of stuff, so that everybody's on board about like what's happening, even if it's just like homework help, basically, because I do homework help, but then we do like, okay, let's look for the gaps. Let's fill those gaps. Let's make sure that like we're really understanding it, not just completing assignments and all of that kind of stuff. So if you want to learn more about that, let me know, and you can reach out to me via email, and catch y'all in the next video. Blessings.